Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 8 of the Realtors Roundtable. Today, we are with a very special guest, the next star, currently a star coach from the community, Central Michigan's very own, Dearborn's very own, Coach Niz.
Nick, appreciate you having me, man.
Thank you for being here.
Pleasure being here with you.
So, Coach, I'm a very firm believer that you can work hard, you can do, your work and have goals, and it's good too. But at the end of the day, to be elite, I'm a firm believer you either got it or you don't. And when I think of Coach Niz, this is how I think of Coach Niz. So you were coaching at Fortson, and you were looking to grow the younger crowd, the younger generation, and you brought them to like a 7 p.m. Training. And my brother was one of them.
Yep.
So I knew Coach Niz as you were a Fortson coach in basketball. I was a Crestwood coach in football. We'd hang out every day. I just knew Coach. I never seen you in action. And we're talking before, hanging out, and the practice started, and then like a switch flipped, and like your energy like went up, and everybody gravitated to the energy. Like me, I came just to watch my brother. I was about to grab a basketball. I'm thinking like, man, this guy's pumping me up, And when I seen that energy, that's like one of the things. Whether it's in business and someone's making a presentation, or someone's in making a business deal, or an actor, or a performance, a sports, a coach, whatever it is. Sometimes you just see it, and you could probably relate. You're like, this guy's got it. So when I seen that, I'm like, ever since that day, I'm like, man, this guy's going to coach in the NBA. And like, if I said that out loud, someone would have been laughing like, man, come on, it's just a high school basketball coach. But you had it. So that's my version of Coach Niz. Who is Coach Niz to you?
Well, I mean, first off, just based on what you saw and what you're saying. So when I first started coaching, I just came across something and I said, you either fire it up with enthusiasm or you're going to be fired with enthusiasm.
Yeah, that makes
so
sense.
I just think bringing the juice every single day and bringing that energy to the gym was always something that was important to me, and I never had to fake it. It came naturally from the love of the game of basketball, the love of competition.
Yeah.
You hate losing more than you love winning, and I think that's what kind of drives you and drives me every day. And also you want to impact, man. One of the things that I think makes me how I am is at a young age, man. I always loved Nick Saban, even though it's a different sport. And listen to all his podcasts and weekly radio shows and interviews. And one thing that he said like 10 years ago that stuck with me, he said, do you pray to be blessed, or do you pray to be a blessing? And I think that's deep. A lot of times we pray to God, or whatever we believe in for things and whatever, but do we actually think about that sometimes? Like, could you be a blessing in somebody else's life? So something as small as showing up to the gym, and who knows what a couple of your players and student athletes have been going through, right? Mm-hmm. Might have a tough day, might have some things going on in school and their family and personal life. Like, you could light up the gym with energy, you might flip their mood, you bring one along, now 3 or 4 come along, and everyone's on that same level, and you just maximize the results out of it. So that's kind of how I see it. And so who's Coach Niz to me? Somebody that was made in this community, made in this community, just from my family and all our extended family and everybody that you're able to look up to who was really, really blue collared. Our grandparents and great grandparents, when they came here, they didn't have it like we had it.
Yeah.
We have it. When I say have it like we had it, we have the opportunities that we had
because of what they did.
Because of what they did and the sacrifices they made. So, I look at it, I put it this way, like whether it was my grandfather working at Chrysler in the plant, on the line for 30, 40 years, or my dad building his business in the back of the bakery for 30, 40 years. Like, if they could work, so could we, right? It's in a different element because of the circumstances they've created for us, but you attack it with the same blue-collar, hard-nosed mentality every day.
100%. What they really built and what the sacrifices that our grandparents and our fathers had, it's instilled in us.
Yep.
It's instilled in us. And you brought up Nick Saban, and so you would think that Nick Saban's a coach, so only coaches watch Nick Saban.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think he has the best business seminars. He is the best speaker.
Yep.
He has the best podcast interviews ever. Because when it comes to being like a coach, you think, look at Nick Saban. All his players go to the NFL. What's the big deal? Just I can go and I could be a college coach, and I can go and recruit the best players,
right,
and I could just do the same thing. or like a John Calipari.
Yeah.
He's got the best recruits every year. Like, big
Yep.
deal. It's not that hard. I could do it. In my line of work, my coach is the number one realtor in Ohio and in Michigan, Greg Erlinger.
Yep.
And he has over 100 people on his team. So you would just say, hey, like, it's very simple. I can just go and I can go get 100 people and put it on my team and add all the numbers together. And that's just the key to success, but it's not.
No.
They don't understand, like, how much a Greg Erlinger, a Nick Saban, a John Calipari, how well versed they are.
Right.
You know, they don't know how much they've studied. They don't know how they relate to their people, their players, their business partners, their customers. They don't understand, like, if you learn from Nick Saban about football, you can relate it to basketball. You
Yep.
can relate it to business. You can relate it to
life.
life with family.
Yep.
You know, so that's it's funny you say that, because I've been, anything I can find on Nick Saban, I've been doing.
Yep. And just to to hit on the point you talked about recruiting, I would say similar to real estate, similar to coaching, and a lot of just different industries and paths of life. Your best recruiting pitch or method is your former players. So all those guys that played for Nick Saban and went on to have long, successful careers in the NFL, went and played for Coach Cal, have long, successful careers in the NBA, and even after that in their business careers and stuff like that, like, that goes a long way. Now you say, I could go here and this is what they've done for guys before me. It's all, it's your reputation, and I think that thing goes a long way, and you really can't fake that, because it's not who these coaches are just when the cameras are on them. It's the relationships they're building with their players, being honest with them, telling them the hard truth sometimes, having a strong enough relationship with your players that you're not just going to tell them things just to make them feel good and what they want to hear. You're going to tell them what they need to hear, and ultimately that's going to help propel them and ultimately those two guys in particular, and a lot of great coaches, because there's a lot of great coaches in all sports and in business, like, whether it's your client or your players, like, their goals got to become your goals. And when they see that, because you can't fake it, so when they see that, so when you get a player who has goals to go play this game and make a lot of money doing it, and you really take it personal, you take his development personal, his day-to-day personal, his objectives to attain those goals personal, that's when you have something really rolling. And then the next player sees that, and the next player sees that, and then you get it rolling like they did it Alabama, and Cal did it Kentucky.
So a lot of people who are going to see, like, on YouTube, Coach Niz, they're probably going to think that a lot of the stuff you're saying, you have to be a basketball fan. But every single thing you just said relates to business.
Yep.
So everything, like a business, a person who owns a business, and they have to relate to their people. They have to care about them.
Yep.
They have to make their goals, that their team members' goals, their own goals. And
Yep.
you're so right. When I have to make a tough business decision, sure, I can go look at a business person's advice, but usually I look at Kirby Smart, who's
Yep.
a Georgia coach,
Yep.
Nick Saban's number one, and you look at them and how they think, because they're dealing with the same thing. They're really running $1 billion business.
Yep.
They're running $1 billion business.
Yep.
So
A lot of correlation for sure.
100%, it's the same world.
Yep.
It's just they call it something different. Sports and business, it's the same exact thing.
Yeah, and even coming up as the youngsters who played sports, you think back and all the stuff that when we're playing for the Dearborn Lions, run at Hemlock Park, running those hills, and Hajimo and Alex Humade are really getting after you to
Yeah.
like push through it. Like, you're thinking at that point, it's to win that game against Woodhaven on Saturday. No, you're learning valuable life lessons about discipline and getting through struggle and all those things. So I think sports plays a huge role into. And I would recommend everybody to put their youngins in sports and let them kind of use that as a vehicle to whatever they decide to do later in life.
100%. It teaches you teamwork. It teaches you how to win. It teaches you how to lose. It teaches you how to build that fire when you lose. And it teaches you, like, for example, depending on what position you play, sometimes it teaches you leadership.
Yep.
And I went to a quarterback coach one time, and when you're in high school, you think, I'm going to play sports for the rest of my life. It's really all that matters. And I had a quarterback coach. His name was Terry Capacia, I think that was his name. Well, I don't know if that was his name, but he's a really good coach.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like 300 quarterbacks from across Michigan and Ohio, and the camp was in Ohio. And he said, you don't understand the leadership skills that you're learning playing quarterback.
Yep.
He said, you're going to be in a business interview one day, and you're so short-sighted when you're young. You're like, okay, I'm playing football right now. I don't care about a business interview. They said, you're going to be in a business interview one day, and you could say, hey, I played quarterback. or I played point guard,
Yeah.
or I was a goalie, and it fell on my shoulders. I had the pressure. I had to handle the pressure. I had to handle the the system. I had to handle everyone's emotion. I had to keep everyone composed.
Yep.
When everything's going crazy,
Yeah,
I have to keep it
that's
calm.
what I was going to say. I mean, as a quarterback, you're not defined by running into that huddle to celebrate after you scored a touchdown. It's how you handle your guys and how you handle adversity when
100%.
things aren't going tough. And now you got 10 guys around you in that huddle on 3rd and 17 when all backs against the wall, and like they've got to hear the confidence in your voice and the conviction in your voice that hey, we're gonna figure this out. And again, that's another thing that you just can't fake it. And I feel like when I say you can't fake it, it means you can't do it.
You really have to believe everything's okay.
You got to believe it, and you got to be consistent with it, and you got to understand that outcomes are going to be outcomes, but it's your response that matters the most.
100%. I was sitting in a closing with a lady, a phenomenal agent. Her name's Linda Leprowski, and she's been doing it for about 30 years. And she coached or spoke at her office a few days ago. And I said, "How did your speech go?" She said, "One of the things I mentioned is when stuff is going wrong in a deal, you're the professional."
Yeah.
And it's the same thing for you as a
Yeah.
coach. She said, "I'm the professional. They want me to make sure everything's okay.
Yep.
And even when it's not, it's my job to tell them it's okay and make it okay."
Yep.
So when you take that leadership in sports, it really transitions into life,
Yeah,
business, having a
absolutely.
family. Something happens with your wife, with your kids, you really learn a lot.
Yep. No, 100%. And every walk as well. I mean, talk about one of the things I've always believed in, and we started this at Fortson and took it to Roseville and Macomb, is the GBED slogan about getting better every day.
Get better every day.
And people see that, they might just assume we're talking about, we want to become a better basketball player
No.
every day. But it's a better basketball player. It's a better student. It's a better person. It's a better son, a better brother. Just in every walk of life, you're striving to be better. And on that note, like J.J. Redick, the new coach of the Lakers, when he was playing, he always lived by this saying, "You've never arrived, you're always becoming." So even when you're in those best moments, when you close that multi-million-dollar deal and everybody feels good, you still haven't arrived, you're still becoming.
Yep.
And when you lost that deal or lost that big game or on a 3-game skid or whatever, you're going through adversity in life, like you've never arrived, you're always becoming. You're still on that path. So just staying even keeled in that moment. And I was fortunate to be a head coach at a very young age and wasn't always even keeled, so got the opportunity to kind of learn with experience, where sometimes guys had to wait a little bit longer to get in that chair, and it's a little bit different in that chair. So
Yeah.
you kind of learn, you learn how to deal with pressure a little bit differently.
I want to go back to that, but I want to mention something before we go through your journey. I want to mention something you said is for kids watching this, and you say, and the coaches tell them when they're playing sports, no matter how old they are, we're looking to make you a better person.
Yep.
We're looking to make you a better husband, a better father. And you think like it's just cliche, they just say it.
Right.
But in reality, when you look at the kids who are disciplined, and this is for people who are thinking of putting their kids in sports, when you think of the kids who are disciplined and who are respectful to their peers and know how to handle things,
Yep.
a lot of times they played sports.
Yeah.
I'm not saying if you don't play sports, you're
But
not going to
it
succeed.
definitely plays a role.
But it really plays a huge role. So
Yeah.
that's a very good point. Get better every day, because if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. There's no stagnant, I don't believe. You're either getting better or you're getting worse.
Yep.
So that's very good that you're instilling that
Yeah,
in people.
100%. I mean, just an example on that. My first year as the head coach at Roseville High School, I had one senior on the team. His name is Austin Lorenzen. His brother actually coached with me for a few years after. He was a really good player.
Yeah.
Decided he wasn't going to play college basketball, but I just knew by the way he went about his day-to-day and how he handles it, I'm like, that kid's going to make it.
Yeah.
Goes and graduates from Oakland University, gets a bachelor's degree, opens his own landscaping business. Now he's in real estate, and everything he does, where he's done 4 or 5 different things since graduate high school, everything he's done, he's been successful in. And you just you could see it at a young age where he developed that drive. Even though I only spent the year with him, you could just tell that kid's going to make it. He's gonna make
100%.
it.
Either you got it or you don't.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Going back to Fortson, so let's start there.
Yep.
You started coaching at a very young age, correct?
Yep.
How young?
I was 17 years old when I
Wow.
when I started coaching. So I graduated high school. I always had aspirations to play college basketball.
You played for a little bit.
I actually didn't. So I graduated my senior year. I signed with Marygrove College, it's the NAI in Metro Detroit, and I had a couple of small school recruit, and decided to pick the school closest to home because I wanted to stay involved in coaching. I knew that that's what I want to do when I graduated. So I figured, okay, if I play at Marygrove, I could still coach at Hype and do different things and help out and stuff, and just have my hand in the game and play and learn. So that summer, it's a funny story. So I'm helping out at Hype. I'm coaching 3rd grade boys, 4th grade boys, like, you know, the leagues that they have, and just really enjoying it. Because I did it as a senior where I'd help out and stuff. So it's July, and Hype's AAU team's going to play in their national tournament. I still had a couple of friends on the team, and Ali said, you know, come with us, come to the tournament. You can help me out. I said, okay. So we go out there, we play a couple games. It's the last game of the day. Playing a team from Iowa. It's a 6 or 7 p.m. game. I can't remember. And Ali was fasting, and he had coached 3 games that day. And if you know Ali, he's high intent.
Yeah.
You know, high. So he comes up to me like 3 minutes before tip off. We're probably about to play the best team that we've seen in the tournament.
Yeah.
He goes, Haas, I can't breathe. I'm about to faint. I'm fasting. You got to coach this game. I was like, oh.
How old are you?
17.
Okay.
Just graduated from Fortson a month ago.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay. So I coach the game. We win like 90-89. Ali Farhad's got like 35 points.
Oh, that's a cheat code. Yeah, Ali Farhad.
A little bit
That's
of a cheat
good. It's a
code.
good boost.
So whatever. So after that game, you know, we're driving home that weekend, and I'm just like, man, like I knew I loved it, and I was willing to play, you know, wait 4 years, graduate. You know, my plan was to get a teaching degree and just coach high school basketball. That was
all our goal.
Yeah, I was good with that. And then that weekend, I drove back. I got back on Monday or Tuesday, and I called Coach Abu Hassan at Fortson. I said, Os, I don't want to play. I want to come coach. And he was a little bit upset because he helped me get to that level where I was able to go to college on a scholarship and stuff. So like, I don't know. And then a couple months went by, and he said, hey, I got an opportunity for you to come be the assistant freshman coach. You can volunteer and, you know, see what happens. So I'm like, okay, bam, you know, did it for a year, and the next year coached JV over there, and the next year coached JV again. And then a guy named Taylor Langley, he was an assistant coach at Davenport. He gets the job at U of M Dearborn. We were letting them use the gym at Fortson for his open gyms because the field house at Dearborn was getting renovated. So I get to meet this guy and stuff, and he said, hey, you want to come be a student assistant on my staff? And, you know, and I don't got much money for you, but you come help out. And I'm like, hey, perfect. It's 5 minutes. I coach college basketball 5 minutes from home. Shoot, I'll pay you to let me do that, you know? So I go take that opportunity for a year, and man, how much I learned that year just being in a college system with a good coach, and we won 20-plus games for the first time in school history.
What are some things you learned?
Number one, just the whole process of, you know, first of all, like admissions and recruiting and getting, you know, U of M Dearborn's a high academic school, so you can't just recruit anybody, you know, so going through the recruiting process and filtering out guys that are good for your school, but then also guys that fit your head coach and his system and stuff, and then just going about the day-to-day stuff, you know, knowing how to balance out your practices and your workouts and your weightlifting sessions and study halls and guys' class schedules. So really just, like, I was a big, like, I tried to soak everything in that year, and I knew I wouldn't be there for too long, but I'm like, I got to just soak everything in. So from game planning to scouting to, you know, finding tendencies and weaknesses, like all that. So that was the first time in my life. Because, you know, in high school, you scout and you prepare, but it was a little bit, you know, a little bit more serious and detail-oriented and stuff like that. So at the end of that year, this is another crazy story. So I like really enjoy this. I'm like, I'm going to come back. So now we're recruiting.
Question, did you get paid much?
No.
Not at all.
Did not get paid a
dollar. So I tell a lot of people, you know, but you probably were very hungry. You wanted to do more than you were doing.
Yeah.
I tell a lot of people when they first start something, like you don't have to be in school to learn.
Right.
So sometimes you can look at your first 2 years in a business. You can look at your first 2 years in anything or your year,
right.
Your first year as like a free education.
100%.
And they'll charge you for what you learned. Let's say you go to very high places in coaching. A lot of it would have to do with your first year that you made no money.
Yep.
You know, and in reality, if you were to put a price on that, that's very expensive.
And to your point there, in that 3 to 4 year stretch, those first 4 years out of high school, I probably attended over 150 college and high school basketball practices. Just reaching out to coaches, hey, could I come? I probably went to 25 of Coach Beeline's practices at Michigan.
Really?
Izzo's practices, and all the small schools as well, because there's some really, really great coaches at the small colleges, the Adrians and the Albions and the Concord, you know, all over the state. So that was like me going to college right there. Like, yeah, I was a
free
college
education.
student, but I was going and I was observing, and I really, really wanted to soak everything in. So when I had my opportunity, like you're never ready, but you know, as ready as you could possibly be.
You're a lot more prepared than an average person.
Yeah.
So if, let's say your goal is to be an NBA coach, if you tell an average person, first thing you're going to do is Google how much money an NBA coach makes.
Yeah.
When you think about it, you did all this stuff for free.
Yep.
It's a passion. You didn't do it so one day you're in the NBA, which I think you will be. You're in the NBA making $10 million a year. That's not why you're doing it.
Right.
That's not why. Otherwise, you wouldn't have done all this stuff for free.
Right.
You know? So a lot of it goes to show you when you do something that you're passionate about, how far you can go.
You find a way.
You find a way.
You find a way.
So after your first year, what happened after that?
So I am a student at Eastern. I'm a student at Eastern Michigan at the time, and I'm in the apartments on campus. Got out of class, had a break. I'm sitting in the apartment, and I get a notification on Indeed. Just a random email. It said head varsity basketball coach, Roseville High School, job opening. So I looked at it, and I'm 21 years old at the time, so I'm thinking I have no chance. I'm still not done with college. I'm still, figuring some stuff out. And I was just like, let me throw this in my Navi from home. We lived in East Dearborn at the time, and if it's within 30 minutes, I'll apply for it. Mm-hmm. So I put it in my navigation. It says it's 29 minutes from the house. I said, okay. So I apply for the job, and week 2-3 weeks goes by. I don't hear anything, and then one day I get an email from the athletic director over there, and just come in and interview. So I go in there and I interview him. And I'm thinking, and I left thinking, man, I thought I did a pretty good job. Like, that's going to help me in the future. That interview experience is going to really, really help me in the future, sitting around, 6-person committee and answering questions. So another week or two goes by, I don't hear anything. Then I get an email from them, hey, we want you to come and, interview again for our next round. And it's going to be an hour sit down again with the committee. And then you're going to have 30 minutes. You're going to work out 4 of our players. We want to see, what you do on the court. So
which is where you shine.
Which is, I was happy because at that point in my coaching career, I was always the younger guy on staff that was working players out. And that's kind of what my MO was. That's what I did. So I had that opportunity. I think that really helped me. It wasn't just the adults in the room making the decision. It was the kids. Like, hey, every coach that was in the final round of the, had a chance to work them out. So, long story short, I come home one day, he gives me the call, he offers me the job. He said, do you need time to accept it? I said, nope. I said, I'll be there first thing.
Quick decisions are the best decisions.
Let's get to work, and then.
How'd that feel?
It was amazing.
When he called you, what did you think?
Thought he was calling me to tell me that he was going a different direction. Because you partly what I know now, I would have probably been more optimistic and believed it and stuff. Yeah. But, at that point, you're just kind of you're not doubting yourself, but you're just trying to say, okay, you're seeing people man, these guys 35, 40 years old getting their first head coaching job. Is this really going to happen
You're
right
21.
now? Yeah. So then the excitement of, I got to put a staff together, and you just get really excited right away. So I was, grateful,
Who's the first person you told when you were 21 years old coaching a high school basketball team?
My mom was the first person that I told, because she always, when I was coaching JV basketball at Fortson, she came to every single game. She hasn't missed a game that I've coached.
Really?
Ever, yeah. So she was always my number one fan. So I called her right away, and then the next phone calls were to just let's get this thing rolling, coaches
awesome.
And players, and let's go, So it had four great years at Roseville High School. And I would, just to touch on that a little bit, I will say I'm a big believer people make places special.
Right.
When I got to Roseville, everybody told me you can't win here. It's you don't have this, and you don't have facilities, and you only have you're losing all your kids to the north side of Macomb County. But you know what I did have? I had a great principal, I had a great athletic director, I had 2 great assistant principals, I had teachers in the building who believed and wanted to let's get on the same page. And we had just look from our custodians to our security guards, everybody in that building was on the same page. So if we had 1,100 kids and not the greatest facilities, and Dakota had 3,200 kids in the best facilities in the state, when we lined up between the lines, it didn't matter.
Right.
Because people made places special, and that's why we were able to do what we accomplished over there. So I've always believed in that. By my 4th year at Roseville, we had one of the nicest gyms in the county. We had a brand new weight room. So all that stuff came, but it's not what made the place special. It was the people in charge and the people who allowed us to do what we did.
Right, and I bet a lot at 21 years old, a lot of it had to do with you going to these practices and sharpening your axe and sharpening your skills and, understanding what it takes to be successful. We spend so much time at conferences.
Yep. We
spend so much time at seminars, so we understand. So when we do get that opportunity for that big deal or that big coaching job, we're already ready.
Yep.
So in reality, you thought it was a joke because you're 21 years old, but you were ready. You were prepared.
Yep.
So you didn't get it on an accident. Nobody told you to go to these practices and sit there for free. Nobody told you to do all this stuff where it was time consuming, but in reality, you were just preparing.
Yep, yeah, just getting ready. You gotta, you and Carl talked about it a lot, man. Whether it's the the rush you get in lunchtime.
Uh-huh.
Like if you're ready for it, it goes really, really smooth.
100%.
Same thing with a job interview or actually getting it. Being ready for an interview is one thing. Being ready to do the job's another thing. You got to make sure you're prepared in that regard. So and again, a lot of it came from the love of basketball at a young age, and I think part of the reason why I hate losing so much is just growing up having a brother that was 3 years old, is 3 years older than me, and like 6 or 7 inches taller than me.
Yeah.
Just getting my butt kicked in the driveway all the time.
It drives your intensity.
Yeah,
It really builds your intensity.
No, he couldn't beat him. So he just always tried to. And if you beat you 19 times and you just got that one win, like you felt great, and now we're going inside. Like I finally won, So
sometimes it's good to fight those impossible battles.
Yeah.
So like I always tell people, we're Crestwood football. We're the only team to play 9 games and lose 10. Everyone stops and thinks about that for a second. But me and Ro, my best friend, we always say like that made us.
Yeah.
That drove us into who we are.
You cared.
Because
you guys cared.
You care and you prepare and you train and you get ready and it builds, and then you lose. You just get up and do it again. And really, you're building yourself through those losses.
Yep.
When your brother would beat you every time, it really made you who you are.
Yep.
It really did.
Yep.
After Roseville, you went to?
I went to Macomb, but so I coached AAU throughout, travel basketball, and that's kind of what has been a huge thing in the basketball world is AAU summer basketball and getting on the circuit and stuff. So I decided to give me my first opportunity to coach a travel team at Hype, and after a couple of years, I had an opportunity to go coach the Michigan Warriors, and that kind of started when I got to Roseville. Mm-hmm. I was with the Michigan Warriors for a couple of years, and then so I was kind of teaching and doing some different things in the building at Roseville, and ironically, one morning I had a prep hour. I said, let me go grab a coffee, and I get a call from a guy named Marcel Smith. By the way, congrats to Marcel. He just became a owner of a Chick-fil-A. That's going to be.
Are you serious?
Yep, somewhere in Oakland County, big time.
That's like a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Marcel.
Worked hard for that one. He calls me up, and it was the first time talking to him. I knew of him, and he, offered me an opportunity to come coach with the family, which is Michigan's only Nike-sponsored AAU team. It's one of the best AAU programs in the country. So I was able to, in that stretch of, having my first head coaching job in high school. Man, I got the chance to coach some of the best players in the country, guys that are playing in the league right now, guys that are signing to Power Fives and playing at a high level, and as well as coaching against some of the best players in the country on that circuit. Like that really, really helped me see a whole different level of the game, like the cream of the crop when it came to talent and coaching as well. Like was big time. So kind of got to do those things at the same time, and then the job at Macomb Community College opened up. So after my third year at Roseville, the coach from Macomb, Jim Twigg, he called me for lunch, and he said, hey, I'm getting ready to call the career wrap. He was there for about 15 years. He said, would you be willing to leave Roseville and come be my assistant for a year, and then at the end of the year we'll try to get the AD to give you the job.
Question, how old were you?
I was 25.
25. How long did you know this guy? John, what's his name? Twigg?
Jim Twigg.
Jim Twigg. How long did you know this guy?
About 2 years, just him recruiting our players from Roseville.
Yeah.
So he says, just come on my staff, and obviously it came with, hey, you got to bring some of your players with you.
Right.
So that's part of it. But so I thought about it, like, man.
But I want to ask you something. That's very important. What you just mentioned. So you built. So from what I'm taking from this, I never knew this part. The relationship you built from this guy, you got him to like you.
Yeah.
You got him to like you. You probably, when he would come to recruit your players, I would imagine that you were interested and not interesting. You didn't show off. You didn't say how young you were coaching,
Right.
You built a genuine relationship, which that goes again to all of life. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't for Jim Twigg liking you, you would have never coached Macomb.
Right.
But he liked you.
Yeah.
Which is huge.
And ironically, so the way it went down, so I thought about it, and I had a group of sophomores and juniors, and when you're a high school coach, it's hard to, you're like, man, like you're going to leave these. So I ended up turning it down. I came back to Roseville for another year, and we had a really good year. At the end of that season, COVID hits. So our season gets shut down. He retires from Macomb. Macomb goes on a hiring freeze where they could only hire internal candidates because it was shut down during COVID.
Wow.
So their assistant coach got the head coaching job. So partly in my mind, I'm like, man, if I would have went, I would have got the job by default. Then I was kind of like, God plans, and,
sure.
We all plan, but God plans. So then one more year, the job opened up, and was able to go through the interview process and got the job. And talk about people make places special. Like, so the athletic director and the sports information director at Macomb, I always said, like, never one day did I feel like I was just coaching at an ordinary junior college. I felt like I was coaching at the University of Michigan.
Yeah.
Just from how, not only how good they were at their jobs, but how enjoyable those two guys and the rest of the people in Macomb made coming to work every single day. It was really cool. I was the basketball coach, and I was the academic. I was in charge of academics for the whole entire athletic department. So overseeing all that stuff and dealing with all the different coaches. But, like, again, people make places special. And then we get to Macomb, I'm able to put together a really good staff of guys because I had already had my foot planted in Macomb County, so I was able to put a staff together. And then, dealing with the transfer portal, we were able to go get some really good players because COVID and guys had extra years. And then, just that was two of the best years of my life, coaching them.
You guys went to the national championship?
We went to that. Yeah, went to the national championship. And our first year, we won the conference and the state championship, fell short of nationals. Second year, we fell short of conference, which we were disappointed about, but we used that to fuel us. We got to the national tournament.
How was that?
It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. So we got there. We were the 8 seed. It was a 16-team tournament because they do 64-32. But then the 16, are playing in the national tournament. So we're the 8 seed playing the 9 seed. So, like, when people are looking, like, oh, maybe you'll win one game. But that 1 seed over there is 33-0. You're going to play in the second round. So we took care of business in the first game, and our guys just had to. We were not losing. We were playing Davidson Davie. They were 34-0.
34-0. Where are they?
They're out of North Carolina.
Wow.
Yep. Coming off of they had played in the national championship game 2 years in a row prior to that season.
Wow.
And they were 34-0, and this was supposed to be their year. And
what was your record?
We were at the time 25-7.
Wow.
Yeah, so we had a good record, but we weren't like we were top 10 in the country. They were like number 1 in the country. And man, like, we relied on our defense all year and our guys. There was a special group of guys in Macomb. That team, like, not that just to get off topic, like, when you talk about teams, whether it's the team you're building here or my 22-23 Macomb team, like, there's certain teams that have those bonds that are unbreakable and that they last forever. Like, that team was that team, and now as I'm seeing it as the years go by, how they still have group chats together, they still get together, and they're all playing college basketball all over the country, but they're still tight knit. And like, you're building a team here, tight camaraderie.
Right.
You guys might spring off as life goes on, but there's always going to be that connection with the success you guys are having and had.
For sure.
And that group was kind of the same way, and it paid dividends in the national tournament because it was a team that no one ever looked at a box score after the game, see how many points they scored.
Yeah. Selfless.
We had 112 practices that year from the fall till the end. We had no bad practices. Like, every day was either a good day or a great day or an elite day. Like, there was never any mediocrity, anything like that going on. So I couldn't say I was surprised with the way our season ended, and we were able to win that Elite 8 game. We get to the Final Four. We're playing the host team, Danville. They had about 30. So I tell people there was about 5,000 people in the crowd, and we probably had about 12 of them for us.
Really?
Yeah. Like, it was that crazy. Like,
wow.
I had my couple family members, a couple of our players' family. Like, it was crazy. And I've coached a game at Central Michigan now at Creighton with 16,000 people in the stands, and, like, nothing compared to that. Just because it was like small college townies supporting their little small program, like, with enthusiasm, intensity. Like, we were lucky to get out of there alive, let alone win the game. Get to the national championship, ran out of gas, but we could talk about that on another day.
Yeah.
But it was just it was an incredible journey. And like I said, Macomb's just a great place, and it just there's just continues to be, whether it was Fortson or U of M Dearborn or Roseville or Macomb or now CMU, like, it just continues to reassure my beliefs that people make places special, not brick and mortar, not the walls, not the signs, not the logos. Like, people make places special. And, like, all these historic, Michigan's a special place football program, but, like, is it just because of the Block M, or is it because of the people who wore the Block M and represented the Block M for over 100 years now?
Right.
So I'm a big believer in that, and that's kind of where we took Macomb to.
So after you're at Macomb, I seen you at Dearborn Meat Market, and I said, Coach, what's next?
I knew you were going to bring that up.
I said, Coach, what's next? And then what happened?
So I walk into Dearborn Meat Market one day, and Nick J, because he's a regular there, he's sitting at the bar eating a couple it was probably some kefta or some raw kibbeh or something, and we're talking because we hadn't seen each other in a little while, so we're catching up. And what's next? So I say, man, I have this opportunity. And I didn't tell a lot of people this, but like, you're like a brother to me, so we had that conversation. I said, man, I have a couple opportunities brewing, but the one that I want it's at Central Michigan. It just feels right. The head coach is somebody I really like and respect. Like, man, I really want this to happen, Nick. I'm not sure. Like, I don't know where it's at. And then you asked me a question. You want to say it? You want me to say it?
I said, do you really want it to happen?
I said, yeah. And then you said, did you write it down yet? And I said, I swear, I said, it's a true story. I said, well, it's in my notes on my phone where I put it like this. You're like, did you write it down? And I'm like, no. And then you're like, well, you better go write it down. And I still have the paper to this day.
Do you really?
I still have the paper to this day. I should have brought it with me today.
You should have.
It's in my apartment in Mount Pleasant.
What did you write?
I said, I will be named an assistant coach at Central Michigan. I wrote it down 20 times, folded it up, kept it. And it was based off our conversation.
That's amazing.
Mark.
That's amazing.
A month later, subhanAllah.
You texted me and said, I wrote it down and I'm coaching at Central Michigan.
Yeah.
I said, my man.
Yeah.
Writing it down, it's unbelievable. It's like when you write something down, it puts it into the universe. You have a path to go to. And no matter what it is, it happens.
Yep.
So I remember I was in Boston and I was driving with a mentor of mine who I mentioned a lot. His name is Bob Boland.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, that's a black Porsche truck. I'd really like to have one. He said, did you write it down? He's 80. Turns 85 in November. He told me, did you write it down? I said, I did. He said, well, congratulations, because you're going to get one soon. And I did. Whatever you write down, man, it happens. It's crazy.
It's abundance.
It is. It's abundance.
You write it, you speak it, and you pray it, and you work it
and you
into
can't,
existence.
like you said multiple times, you can't fake it. You have to believe it.
Yep.
You can't fake it. Because the universe, God, your energy, you can't fake it. Mm-hmm. They can tell when you really genuinely believe you're going to be the coach of Central Michigan. Yep. I can't tell you how many times that a deal would die and I would write it down. And one day, what I'll do is, if I know I want to close on this specific property, I will write down the whole day. I'll write down what I'm going to do in the morning. And I have a notebook of things I'm going to do on these specific days. I write down what I'm going to do in the morning, what I'm going to wear, what the weather's going to be like, what time of the year it's going to be. And I'm going to write how I'm going to feel. And it happens almost every time. And one time, it didn't happen. And I said, this is weird. I told my wife, Reem, I said, Reem, this is weird. This the first time I really manifested it, and I wrote it, and I looked at it, and it didn't happen. And she told me, call him tomorrow. So I called him. I said, hey, man, what's going on? Where you been? He told me, I meant to call you. He said, we're looking like November, December. Is you guys still interested? I said, yeah, you're still interested. I'll talk to him. And,
That's funny.
You got to write it down.
Yeah, you got to write it down. I mean, when I saw you at Dearborn Meat Market, so Shane Hireman, who was one of the assistant coaches at Central Michigan, he had gotten a head coaching job at Incarnate Word, Division I school down in San Antonio. So there was one job open at CMU. And I was like, trying to get it. I was really trying to get it, but it was gonna be tough. He was the associate head coach there, and so I figured, I don't have any Division I experience. Well, but I was still, kind of just working it. Well, like 2 weeks after we wrote it down, the other assistant coach, Coach Smoke, was a good friend of mine, got a job at Rutgers, and then now we were really like, okay, we wrote it down and it's happening. So it's just just time and place. And Coach Barbie was great. Like I would not have. Like as bad as I wanted to coach at Division I level, because it's been a goal of mine since I started this thing, I would not have just went and done it just to do it, just to say I coached Division I.
It's got to be right.
Like, right, and again, people make places special. Like and Coach Barbie, not just because of his background and who he's coached and the things he's accomplished and what he's done, but I just like I got the job at Macomb the same time he got the job at Central Michigan, so we kind of met off of him getting in the state, being introduced to each other, him coming to Macomb, recruiting our players. So I knew who he was, what he was about, watched his teams play, and like that's a guy I would go work for because I know what he's about. He comes from that Calipari tree where their mantra, their mentality is players first. Like we're gonna help you get to where you want to go. Like this is and it's different now because of the transfer portal. One of the things we talk about with our guys is like, this isn't a 4-year deal. It's a Coach Barbie trademark. Like this is not a 4-year deal. This is a lifetime deal. Now with the portal, it could be a 1 year, 2 year, 3, whatever. But
right.
No, regardless of what that looks like you come play for us, it's a lifetime deal. Like we got your back forever. So I know when players call Coach Barbie 10, 15 years from now needing help with a job or needing a reference or whatever, like my man's going to deliver. And that's the type of guy that I want to be around because there's great basketball coaches everywhere, but you want to find somebody who's really about it and about the right things. And that's where I felt like I struck gold with CMU, and then being in the Mid-American Conference is, it's a meat grinder, man. It's tough, just like in football, and same way in basketball when you got to go down there and play those games in Ohio and stuff like that. It's like, it's a tough conference to be. It's great coaches, great players all around. I mean, guys from our league are going to the NBA year in and year out, so it's no shortage of talent and no shortage of struggle either. It's tough. Right. You got to get through it. So last year we had a really strong finish in the
you guys caught fire at the end.
Yeah, we did. We wish we would have had more success in the conference tournament. A couple injury bugs, but again, Coach Barbie's been there for 3 years. That was year 3. That was the breakthrough year. He kind of took over a program that really hasn't been relevant, 10, 15, 20 years, and he said he was going to get them relevant, and he did it. And now we're just trying to take it to the next level now in year 4 this year, and the goal is when you're sitting down filling out those brackets, you're picking the Chippewas this year.
So how many wins do you guys have to do to be in our bracket?
So we have to make the conference tournament. Yeah. 8 out of 12 teams in the MAC make the conference tournament. So then it becomes an 8-team tournament down in Cleveland. Yeah. And you got to win 3 games: quarters, semis, and then the championship game.
So basically, the only way to get in from the MAC is to win the conference.
Yeah, it's a one-bid league, so you got to win the league. So really, everything is irrelevant until you get down to Cleveland. 3-day stretch. Like last year, the 8 seed, so the last seed, Kent State, was up by a point with 3 seconds left in the conference championship game. They ended up losing at the buzzer, but they were up by a point. So, you could get in. You just see it. It's Cinderella. It's March, so it really doesn't matter. But for us, our main focus is, same mentality that I've had at Macomb, but just you want to beat your best when your best is needed, and when your best is needed when it's win or go home, and that's what it's about. So I'll go on a limb and I'll say this to everybody listening. Not many people in Michigan know Coach Barbie because he's an Indiana native and stuff like that, but Coach Tony Barbie will get the Chippewas, and our staff will get the Chippewas to the NCAA tournament before it's all said and done.
Wow.
And we'll come back, and I'm going to write it down too. I already wrote that one down.
Did you?
Yeah.
When?
When I first got the job.
Okay. Do you look at it a lot?
Yeah.
Good. So when do you guys do goals? Because it's very interesting to see a Division I program. Yeah. So we write a business plan every year in October.
Okay.
So do you guys do goals to coaches? Do the coaches mention the goals to the players? Do they write it down? What's the timeline of that?
Yeah, so we individual goals. We sit down with our guys in the beginning of the season and we have them write their goals down. Like Brian Taylor, our senior last year, I still have his goal sheet in my desk. I made him because of you. I made him write it down in paper. We're not typing this up. We're writing it down. But this is what I want. That kind. He accomplished the majority of the stuff he set out to in his senior year, and now he's playing professional, and that was another thing on his list. And he's making money to play the game, but. So yeah, individually wise, but for us, at the Division I level, the way we look at it, our season's in 3 phases. You have the non-conference slate. That's phase 1. That point is about coming together, figuring out who we are, what we need to improve on. You have about 10 or 11 games for the New Year's. And for us, it's usually against some high major schools. We're playing Oklahoma, Ohio State, Florida State. Shoot everybody.
South Florida this year?
They won't play us again. We beat them last year.
Come on. Yeah. We're supposed to meet up in Florida then.
We were. No, it was actually one of the high major games that we won. So that first phase of non-conference is just about, racking up as many wins as you can. But more so than racking up wins is becoming a really good team, finding your identity. Phase 2 is that conference season, that January, February MAC grind where you have one goal there, win the league. Right, you just let's go get this thing, and then that phase 3 is postseason, and for all the phases. So you want to be better in phase 2, obviously, than you were, and then you want to when you go into phase 3, you want the reason you're really good in phase 3 is because phase 1 and phase 2 made you who you are at that point. And in all reality, you want to hang banners, and you could hang banners in phase 2 and phase 3. So phase 1 is trying to kind of getting you to that point, and then you just kind of go from there. But also when you look back at before that phase 1, you have the preseason and the summer and all the practices that go into it. One thing that we believe in is we call it a level check. For us, level 5 is through the roof. You're at a level 5 today. You brought the juice. You were in it. You were getting after it. And we'll huddle our guys up after practice and we'll ask them what level are you? What do you say? And this guy will be well, I was at a 3.1 today. And your teammates could check you in both directions. So your teammate could say, Nick said he was a 3.1 at today's. No, Nick, I thought you were at a 4, man. You really brought it. Or you say you're at a 4, and I'm like, Nick, I thought you were at a 2.5 today. You weren't talking on defense. So we do those things on a daily basis, level checks. Because if we know if we're all at a level 5 consistently every single day, you're going to be a very hard basketball team to beat.
We're going to tournament.
So, and I think that you kind of relate that to, the business life and the office life. Like, what level are you at every single day? Are you just kind of going
So we
through
have
the
a
motions?
sheet.
Or
We have a sheet, and every day it's accountability sheet, and Adam fills it out almost every day. Um, Mo, you're gonna start filling this out since you're going full time. So we have this sheet, and you write down your hour tasks by the day, how many calls you make, how many prospects you talk, how many people you met face to face, what were your top things for the day that you accomplished, what were your biggest challenges, and at the bottom you got to rate yourself. And one thing about Adam, he's always honest.
Yep.
I'll say like, man, like we're at an 8. He never really goes usually over an 8. I'll say, man, like I think you were. And I'll think. Sometimes I don't tell him. I'll think like I think this guy was at a 9 today.
Yeah,
But
it's a level check.
yeah, it's a level check. Same thing. That's so funny.
And that's good. Like, just like you and Carl were talking about the other day, like even when you're a leader, right? And it's not always to scold them or tell them what they could do better. Like sometimes guys need to hear like, man, listen, you're doing a lot better than you think you're doing right now. Like the humbleness is probably what makes you special, but like understand, like it's good stuff here. So
100%.
it goes both ways.
What are some things that Division One that change at that level? Whether it's coaching, whether it's preparation, what does it take to get to that level, and what does it take to be successful at that level on the coaching as a coach?
Yeah, to get there, I'll start with that. Like to get there, I think there's the unique thing, and I've always believed this when I first started coaching. So when you become a doctor or a lawyer, for example, I use those two as examples, or a dentist. There's a specific route you have to take to get to the top of your profession or to get into that profession. With coaching, let's say at the Division I level, like there's guys that play Division I and then they hop on a staff. There's guys that start off as student managers and then become GAs, then video coordinators, then they become coaches. And then there's the route that I took where I was a high school, junior college, AAU coach, and I was getting hands-on experience. Yeah, climbing the ladder like that. So for me, the biggest adjustment has been like I was able to coach, recruit, develop, do all that stuff. Learning Division I, learning the rules and compliance and all the stuff that goes into it day to day. So I will say like the biggest thing I think is man, you got to be detail oriented. You've got to be, you got to be thorough. You got to be precise. You got to be prepared. You can't fake it. Like if I'm about to go work out my guards for 30 minutes, like I'm making sure not a second is wasted in that 30-minute segment. Like we're jumping from one thing to another without any wasted time. And the good thing for me is I've always been that way, so I didn't have to change. But the biggest adjustment that in learning is like everything really, really, really matters. Like when you're coaching and there's like high school basketball, we take that more serious than anything. But at the end of the day, I'm not gonna say it's just high school basketball because it's pretty serious, but it's usually not your main source of income.
Right.
Coaching the high school basketball team. Coaching for you're coaching you're feeding your family off of this, you're living off of this, so like the pressure and the detail and the intensity that goes into that aspect, like you're talking about your livelihood here, so I think that increases the pressure, which therefore increases the detail and the preparation and the detail that it takes to separate yourself from your opponent, because everybody's really good at that level. Right. Everybody's elite, but just like in any level of team sports, the similarities, it's a locker room full of guys that come from all different walks of life that each have a story. And just like high school, just like Division I, you can't truly reach them or impact them unless you know their story. So you've really got to, dive into that, who they are and where they come from and, what are some struggles. So we do a lot of that team building stuff early because, again, to fully answer your question, man, this NIL and transfer portal was wild. Because in the past, I'm going to recruit this kid from, Fortson High School or whatever, and he's going to come play in my program and for 4 years. And I don't have to worry about for 4 years. Now it's every year you got to replace 9 to 10 guys, 9 to 10
what
guys.
What do you do to? So it's funny, like 90, and while I'm listening to what you're saying, I'm thinking, how many people play high school basketball in America? If you were to give me a wild guess.
So hundreds of thousands. 200,000,
300,000.
Let's call it 500,000.
500,000. How many make Division I basketball?
There's 353 Division I schools, and there's 13 scholarships on each team.
Less than 1,000.
Yeah, less than 1,000.
Less than 1,000. So how I look at that is, I'm thinking, to be the top, what is that, 1% of 1%? Mm-hmm. To be that percent, what does your mindset have to be? You mentioned preparation.
Yep.
You mentioned, what else?
The resiliency to get through struggle, because it's not going to be easy all the time. You've got to be a super, super hard worker.
You mentioned being prepared in your schedule to the point where you are
You're
structured.
not wasting time.
You're not wasting any time.
So Coach, so you talk about the details. So Coach Barry talks about this all the time because he coached Tyler Hero and Tyrese Maxey and Devin Booker and Tyler Eulis and all those one and done guys. So he talks about they call it, at Kentucky now at Arkansas, the blueprint. And what does that look like, man? Like, so all right, I had practice. Let's say I had practice from 2 to 5. Okay. Is that the only time I spend on the court? If I really want to make it? No, those guys. I'm going to wake up in the morning. I'm going to get a workout in. Then I'm going to go to class. Then I'm going to get another workout in. And then before practice, I'm going to call one of my assistant coaches, and we're going to get a 45-minute workout before practice. And then after practice, I'm going to do the same thing. And then I'm going to go and get rehab and rest, and I'm going to get a couple hundred shots up. And then I'm going to come get some shots up right after dinner. Then I'm going to go to my dorm, finish my homework, do what I got to do. Then I'm going to come back at 11, 12 o'clock at night. Hey, coach, let's get some work in. Like, that's what it takes to make. So all these, young athletes aspiring to get to the highest level of, like, you're talking about, when you talk about, those guys are cream of the crop for a reason. Yeah, they might be on draft boards when they're young. Yeah, they might be highly ranked, but there's a reason behind that. And whether it's coaches or whether it's players, like at the Division I level, I'm like, only the grinders survive.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not a grinder, you're not going to make it.
Right.
So if you do just what's required,
you won't last long.
You will not last long.
You won't last long.
Not last long, and you will not you will not accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. And at that point, I think that's where that you said you either have it or you don't. And the vast majority are just okay with that. It's only that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% of human beings, let alone at that level of basketball, that are willing to put themselves through that every single day, be consistent about it, and then go on to those big contracts and go on to achieve what they achieve.
And if you're about it
Mm-hmm.
and someone's not, Nick Saban, my favorite quote about Nick Saban is, high achievers don't like average people, and average people don't like high achievers.
Yep.
And if you put them on the same team, you're going to have a problem.
Yep.
And that's in all aspects of life.
Yep.
You have to be around like-minded individuals.
Yep.
Sure. Is there something wrong with not wanting to practice basketball from 9 a.m. to 12 a.m.? There's nothing wrong with that. But then don't say you want it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Don't say
Right.
you want it.
Right.
Don't.
And the biggest misconception, Nick, with that, and I guess you're talking basketball, but in any walk, like you say 9 a.m. to 12, we tell our guys all the time, you don't got to be in the gym for 3 hours. Come in here for 20 minutes and get purposeful work in, and then come back for 40 minutes later, and then maybe another hour later, another 45 minutes later, and break it up. It's 7, 8 hours in the gym. Like, everyone has a life and has to, go to class and all that stuff.
Right.
But and another Coach Barbie gem, he says, like, people spend time doing what they love. So really, that's all it really comes down to. Like, do you love it, or do you love what it could bring you? Mm-hmm. And I think if you just love what it could bring you,
You won't last long.
you won't last long. Like
long.
in real estate, for example, like, you seem to love real estate and helping people close and buy and sell and all this stuff, not just what real estate could do for you.
I would do it for free.
Exactly. And again, that speaks to why you're having success at the rate you're having it, because what is it? You're either about it or you're not, right?
You're either about it or you're not. And Carl Mackey said something really amazing last week. He said, most of the time at Avenue American Bistro, which we were talking off camera,
Yeah.
you said it's probably the best restaurant
Yeah.
in America.
No question.
Consistency-wise, he said, my servers make more than me. I don't care.
Yeah.
He said,
And just on that, so Carl hears this. So our Central Michigan coaching staff, we recruit around the country all the time, right? And Detroit, we fly to Detroit a lot. So it's become a tradition now. Anytime we're flying in or out of Detroit, stopping at Avenue. You got to do it.
Yeah.
Got to get those smoked wings.
Yeah, the smoked wings are good.
And many other things.
I don't
too.
like the smoked wings. I don't like smoked, but those smoked wings are great.
Unbelievable.
They're great.
Unbelievable. I will, if I'm feeling it, I would drive from Mount Pleasant to Avenue, have a meal, get back in the car and drive back.
I mean, you know what? That's what happens when you do something for the love of it, not for the love of what it brings you. He said, my servers make more than me. I'm not doing it for money.
Yeah.
Sure, like let them make a lot more. I don't care.
Yeah.
We're doing it for the satisfaction. We're doing it to make the customer happy. We're doing it for the success. We're doing it for the accomplishment, whether it's running a restaurant, owning a business, coaching a basketball team. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do it from a passion. You have to do it from point where you're doing it out of passion, not of getting anything from it.
Yeah, and so the last thing on Avenue. So if when we get together for dinner next week, ask my wife. So the day of our engagement,
Yeah.
she's running around getting ready, and
Yeah.
I said, where was I at noon that day?
Where?
I was sitting at the bar Avenue having smoked wings and truffle French fries.
That's it, man. Truffle French fries
So
are great. Are we going to Avenue next week?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do that. That's a good one. That's a good one. So that's what it's all about, man. It's all about passion. Someone who I know you were very passionate about, someone who I think is the number one person when it comes to doing something from a passionate point of view or an intensity. And I seen it when I seen you coaching that day is Kobe.
Yep.
So how do you think you implement the Mamba mentality into what you do every day?
Yeah, so the Mamba mentality, I mean, it's like an...
Sorry to cut you off, but I remember in second grade at Maya school, you
Yeah.
used to walk around with this Kobe Bryant basketball.
Yep.
Kobe Bryant basketball. Like, you're a big...
Yep.
It's funny. This is episode number 8.
Number 8.
And you're a big Kobe fan.
Crazy. Yeah, and I had, at that point in my... I had a collection, my brother and I, of every single jersey they've ever made with Kobe Bryant's name and number on it. And I still have a lot of them. Still, I gave some of them away and stuff. But that Mamba mentality is like an unwritten mentality for how you approach the game, for how you approach life. You know, like I'm sure you heard that story with Team USA, how the one year where Carmelo and D Wade and LeBron and a couple of those guys said they were coming into the hotel at like 3-4 in the morning after a night out, drinks, party, whatever. And Kobe was walking out of the elevator for his first workout of the day. And they're like, we're just getting in. He's getting his first one in. So I think that Mamba mentality, it isn't about anything specific aside from just being different. And, you know, I say different in terms of like the norm is to just get through something. You know, the norm is just to okay, this is what's required of me today. This is what I'm doing. And that Mamba mentality is, how do I separate myself? Not separate myself so I could gloat and, pout around about how I'm the hardest worker in the world. It's because I know what that is going to do for me. And I always talk about the Mamba mentality. To me is, what you do with the lights off is going to show when the lights are on. What you do when no one's watching is what's going to show when 15,000 people are watching you perform at the highest level or coach at the whatever it may be. So yeah, I mean Kobe was just different. I think for me, I was never the greatest player, but that Mamba mentality and just having that at a young age and just loving him and aspiring to be him one day, and I'm never going to be Kobe Bryant, but I could take some things from him and, the way he spoke about life and basketball and stuff and, being at the Fairland Club and with nobody in the gym and you're Kobe in that moment and you're going to make, just playing and making shots and, and that. So again, that wasn't a fiction for a young age. And my dad used to take us to the games every time he came to the Palace one time a year and we'd go early and try to see, hey, Kobe and all that stuff. But, and unfortunately we lost Kobe a couple years ago. That was tough, but one of the heroes, man, and he was like right in between that Jordan era and this new era of guys, and I think he really, really set an example. And even for him, like Kobe, first to tell you, like he just basically emulated MJ. He soaked everything MJ did and just kind of tried to do it himself. So, and the last thing I'll say about this, and just based on the MJ stuff, is like, really, that's greatness. Like with our phones and with technology, like you don't have to make anything up anymore. You just have to go seek information, go seek like whatever it is you want to do.
On YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many resources out here. There's no excuse to not be able to grab the intel, grab the information to make yourself, educated, prepared on certain things, and to help you grow. Like for example, like I don't have to make up basketball plays. I'm just gonna go study the best. Like the Sacramento Kings 2 years ago had the number one offense in the NBA. Like so that whole summer I was studying the Sacramento Kings offense. Like so those things I think with Kobe's mentality, but now utilized like in our business, like for you and all the stuff you do to before you come in the office and on your off days, just becoming a better, in your field, like that stuff. That's Mamba mentality to me, ultimately.
100%. When I was in high school, we went up north one time, and Michael Phillips, who's the broker here, we were going up the sand dunes, and I'll never forget it. I was like, and I don't even know if he remembers this, and I was like out of breath. It was like I think before my junior year or my senior year, and he told me like, "Are you not playing football this year?" And I was like, yeah, but like I was doing the bare minimum. I think it was my junior year. And I was just doing the bare minimum because I was just a junior. All the seniors were going to play.
Yeah.
And he's like, so you don't really want to play? And I'm like, no, I do. I'll just play. He said, no, you really don't. And I didn't get it. I'm like, what's this guy talking about? Like, it's not that serious. He said, so like, if you don't want to do it full force, then just don't do it. You know, and that really changed into my mentality. And I realized as I get older, I understood what he was talking about.
Right.
I understood what he was talking about.
Right.
And the Mamba mentality is doing more than is expected, way more than you have to.
Yep.
And what you're doing when people are not looking.
Yep.
It's a very good point.
That's what defines you. I mean, you know, most of your life, no one's watching.
Yeah.
You know, so that's really what defines who you are and your character and stuff like that.
100%. So you went from Fortson to U of M Dearborn to Roseville to Macomb to CMU. Where do you see this ending?
Man, you know, I think about that all the time, but I just try to take it one day at a time.
Yeah.
You know, one day at a time, and obviously we have goals and aspirations to coach at the highest levels of the game, and you know, I want to coach at the highest level possible of this game because I want to be around greatness every single day.
Yeah.
And that's part of getting, you know, to Division I level, like just being at the offices in Central Michigan, whether it's Coach McMillan, who's been coaching Division I 15 years, or Coach Scott Cherry, who's won a national championship as a player at North Carolina and was a Division I head coach for 10 years, won 4 league championships, or Coach Barbie, who you know, played at a high level, recruited Derrick Rose to Memphis, recruited multiple one and dones, was the head coach at UTEP. Like, just being around guys like that and, you know, soaking it all in and learning, like, I could see myself, you know, hopefully if I'm able to rise in the profession as the years go on, I just want to stay around greatness because that's what I'm able to be around right now. But at the same time, I just take it one day at a time because, you know, ultimately my goal would be to be a Division I head coach one day.
Yeah.
That'd be my goal, and I did write that down.
That's good.
But ultimately, I told myself when I started coaching, I said, look, if I'm the head coach at a Division I school one day, or if I'm a high school coach for 40 years, it's still, in this profession, it's still one heck of a life lived because you're able to coach for 30, 40 years, man. Think about all the lives you're able to touch.
Yeah.
Think about all the impact that you're able to make. So I would say, like, you know, my you call it like a material goal would be like, yeah, I want to be a Division I head coach one day. That's my goal. I want to take a team to the Sweet 16 and the Final Four and, you know, win a national championship and all that. But the ultimate goal would be like, man, could I, you know, I'm turning 30 in a few months and this is year 13.
Yeah.
Like, so could I do this for 50 years? Like 50, 60 years? Could I, you know, does God, you know, could I have the ability to do it for that long? Because I could look back at it and say, man, like, you know, not only think about the amount of people I've had the opportunity to help and impact, but, man, think about all the people that have an impact on you.
Right.
In all those years.
Right.
That's the thing that I think gets forgotten. Like, I learn more from my players sometimes than they learn from me. You know, especially coaching college basketball and, you know, stuff like that. But because a lot of those guys that I coached at a very young age, like, and, you know, your brother Hassan and those guys, like, those guys are like 3 or 4 years younger than me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
very
like,
young.
a lot of those guys would be like, I coached them and, you know, they're friends,
Yeah.
you know, and so it's just special, man. It's just really special. Like, some of the guys, I'm coaching a kid from Lithuania, from Cameroon. We got 4 or 5 guys from Canada. Like, I've coached guys from Australia. I've coached guys from the Middle East. You know, you just think about it, like, man, like, you know, and he made me think of this, but I tell people all the time, Nick, like, that basketball that we call it, that you know, that orange dumb basketball that's helps us get through school and all that stuff, like, 95% of the relationships I have in life outside of family came from the game of basketball.
Yeah.
Played with, played against, coached against, you know, just you know, Metro Detroit's a tight-knit basketball scene too, but now globally as well, being at this level, like, the relationships is just, it's unbelievable. So I know that was a long-winded answer, but, you know, ultimately, you know, you coach in the NBA, coach high major basketball, that'd be like the ultimate blessing, not because of the materialistic things that would come with it, but because, like, whoa, right? Like, that you know, that moment. But
it's also the drive, the journey.
The journey.
And that's one thing that Kobe was very big on. Mm-hmm. When you have a big goal, it's the journey that is just as exciting.
Yep.
It's just as exciting. It's who you become chasing to be the Robert Saleh of the NBA.
Yeah.
Because I tell people you're going to be the Robert Saleh of the NBA. You don't have to say that you are, but you are. You're going to be the first coach, whether it's head coach Division I or NBA in our community, basketball. You're going to be the first one. And it's the journey of getting there, of what kind of person you're going to become, but more importantly, the relationships
Yes.
that
yes.
you're going to build.
Yes, and like you said it best. It's the chase that makes the hunt.
Yes.
You know, and like there's a lot of times like I doubt it. You know, because again, you know, even as a young coach, like you doubt that you could get this job or doubt that you could get that job. Like I doubt it sometimes, but you know, you believe through your work and you know who you are and stuff. But also, man, like Robert opened a lot of doors for a lot of people. Like
really did.
Not just because well, Robert did it, we can, but almost because you saw what Robert did.
Yeah.
Like Robert was a defensive grad assistant 21 years ago at Central Michigan University.
Uh-huh.
So
Where do you
like,
coach?
yeah,
Where do you
Robert
coach?
at Central Michigan
Where do you
University.
coach?
Central Michigan.
All right.
Yeah, and like Rob didn't play in the NFL. Like Rob, like you know, young guys will say he got it out the mud. Like he really, you know, he did it. He was probably making $500 a year coaching as an intern for the Texans, and now he's the head coach of the New York Jets. Probably gonna make a Super Bowl run with Aaron Rodgers. Like it's unbelievable. And whether it's Robert in sports or man, think about all the incredible people in our community, sports and outside of sports who've done amazing things. So, like what Robert said, if you can make it in Dearborn, you can make it anywhere.
I'm going to post a reel about that today.
Yeah.
To end, what are some wise words you'd like to share with people who have aspirations as a business person,
Yep.
kids who have aspirations to be a Division I athlete, and kids who have aspirations to be a big coach one day? What's some words of advice you'd like to end on?
Yeah, first thing I'll say on that is the one thing that holds most of us back is a fear of failure. Man, don't have a fear of failure, because sometimes that fear of failure is the only reason you don't try. Don't be afraid to fail, because that failure is going to end up being a trampoline that takes you places that you didn't imagine that you could see yourself going. And also, like, on top of being organized and writing everything down and having a plan, like, all those things are, like, literally at the forefront of accomplishing your goals. But, like, be a good person. Mm-hmm. That's, like, to me, that's just, like, man, what goes around comes around. Like, I try. You know, I'm not perfect. None of us are perfect. But I want to make sure everybody that I come across has a better day because of their encounter with me. Yeah. Whether it was holding the door at the grocery store or a phone call or whatever. Like we talked about in the beginning, like, pray for your blessings, but also pray to be a blessing. Mm-hmm. Because what goes around is going to come around, and what you put into this universe is going to come right back to you. So on top of your preparation and just being detail-oriented and goal-oriented and really, really believing, like, I could simply answer your question by just saying, man, just be a good person and try to be a good person.
That's awesome. Those are some great words to end with.
Appreciate
you. Thank you for joining us. And I want to end on one thing. One time you called me and told me, hey, or you asked me real estate advice. I think it was with your uncle, and you said, hey, what do I owe you? I said, I'm not shy. I'm going to tell you, when you're on your first job, on your first year, I want floor seats, and I'm still going to hold you to that, and I'm going to go on camera and see it. So thank you for joining us, and we look forward to it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
appreciate it.
Thank you for watching episode 8 of the Realtors Roundtable. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. If you didn't like it, please subscribe.